Brother. We live in a world of implants, injections, liposuctions. If you want it sucked out or stuffed in, the medical community can make it happen for you. And we're not judging. As long as you don't go full Mickey Rourke, it's cool with us. But yeah, some techniques happen with us barely noticing, and some are pretty hard to miss. I'm Senior Siete for 7 Rasslin, and let's take a look at 7 strange WWE plastic surgery stories. Now, before we get into this, we appreciate your support, so if you enjoy this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and meteora that notification bell. Number 1. Calf measures. If you haven't watched Dark Side of the Ring on Vice, it's a pretty interesting show, and they've covered most of the big controversial topics like Bruiser Brody's murder, Magnum TA's car crash, Owen Hart's accident. So when they came up with something random like Buff Bagwell, old Senior Siete had to wonder why bother. What major scandals has he been involved in? And oh, was I wrong. In fact, when this is over, see if you can hunt down the Buff and the Bagwells episode because it is legitimately insane. Here are some quick highlights to whet your appetite. His dad bought him a Corvette when he was 15 years old. His dad would give him and his buddies baggies of illegal hard drugs when they go out for the evening. Buff would go on to actually shoot his father in a domestic dispute. I'm telling you, go watch it. I mean, watch this first, then go watch it. But the reason we're bringing it up here is because of a segment where they discuss Buff's calf implants. To hear former referee Mark Slick Johnson tell the story, Buff felt his path to wrestling stardom was by having a perfect physique. And the one part of his body for Buff that wasn't quite the stuff were his calves. So he got himself a pair of calf implants. And they looked great at first, until Bagwell's legs started to hurt. Johnson would have to carry the immobilized Bagwell to and from the bathroom whenever he needed to do his business. Apparently this went on for weeks before Bagwell finally went to the hospital where the doctor told him they'd have to be removed immediately or they would cost Bagwell his legs. At which point, Buff would proceed to think about it for a while, apparently, before deciding to remove the implants, at which point I'm screaming at my TV, what good are calf implants if you have no legs? Yeah, you gotta watch that episode. Number 2, breast intentions. Oh hey, it's the least shocking entry on this list. Professional wrestling and breast augmentation are like peanut butter and jelly, chocolate and peanut butter, Sting getting stabbed in the back. They just seem to go together. The WWE's relationship with this particular cosmetic surgery is interesting because according to Ronda Rousey in her memoir, Our Fight, WWE will cover 100% of the cost of surgery if a female talent wants to have it done. What a perk! A perky perk, if you will. Let's move on. And while we could easily just make this a list of WWE talent who have had this specific procedure, actually we could make a lot of lists on this topic, we thought we would just highlight one that was somewhat entertaining. Being a McMahon means being born with a sixth sense for the business, knowing that when you enter a ring, you're going to be equal parts despised and revered, so it's quite shocking that Stephanie would be so offended by a fan sign that she would take the drastic steps of getting plastic surgery. But according to the $1 Billion Princess, that's exactly what happened when she looked out into a packed house and spotted a sign that alleged that Stephanie's breasts were sagging. This affected Stephanie personally because she'd later state, at one point in time I was heavier and then I had lost some weight and I didn't like the way I looked and I wasn't confident in how I looked, and so it was my own personal decision to have that done and I was proud of what I did. And because Stephanie is such a good sport, this led to something new for Chris Jericho to poke fun at her in their never-ending will they, won't they, Sam and Diane, hatred, flirting relationship that they seem to have. Number 3, the mysterious tracksuit. We all know The Rock's story. They brought him in as Rocky Maivia. He wore a frilly outfit. He was told he couldn't stop smiling, and the audience absolutely hated him. Die, Rocky, die. He'd then join the Nation of Domination, he'd lose the frilly outfit, he'd pop an eyebrow, he'd refer to himself in the third person, and The Rock was born. And while he may have gone from $800 shirts to how's your lip, but how's your lips? What the hell does that even mean? Sorry, and while he may have gone from $800 shirts to how's your lips to final boss Elvis outfit outside of the ring, the in-ring gear has stayed pretty much the same. Black tights with a Brahma bull and the words The Rock in various colors, elbow pads, knee pads, and those boots with the funny windows, so I guess his calves can see out. But there was a brief period right as The Rock was breaking into the main event where he would wrestle in a full tracksuit. He wore it when he dropped the title to Mick Foley on an episode of Raw. He wore it when he caved in Mick Foley's head with a jillion chair shots at the Royal Rumble. He wore it when he and Mick Foley battled in an empty arena during the halftime of the Super Bowl. And he wore it when he battled Mick Foley in a last man standing match at St. Valentine's Day Massacre. So what gives? Well, The Rock had undergone gynecomastia surgery to address the fatty tissue that was gathering on his pectorals, likely due to his genetics. Or in layperson terms, he had surgery on his man boobs. Despite his fit appearance, The Rock faced self-esteem issues due to his excess chest tissue, which couldn't be reduced through exercise alone. Fortunately, by the time he made it to WrestleMania to face Steve Austin in the main event, he was back to his usual attire, and his calves were back on display for the whole world to see. Number 4. Fourhead Horsemen. Alright, this one is not going to be for everyone. Just recently, the WWE has approved the return of blood in their matches, although at this point it is unclear if WWE is using stage blood or if they have brought back the practice of blading. Here's where those of you with weak stomachs might want to go grab a snack, maybe come back in a minute or two. Blading is the act of a professional wrestler concealing a razor blade on their person, and then when the moment is right in the match, swiping it across their forehead to make an incision and draw blood. For as gruesome as the practice is, the way in which this illusion is created are truly masterful. Generally, the blade or gig is cut into a triangle, with wrist tape being used to tape off all but a single point. From there, the user can conceal the blade within their boot, their wrist tape, or some wrestlers have even claimed to keep it in their mouth, although how that is possible with bumping is beyond me. And when blading is done sparingly, Mr. Moxley, it can add quite a bit of drama to a match. But there are wrestlers of another generation who are hitting the blade every single night, and their foreheads definitely tell the tale. Talking about Dusty Rhodes, talking about Bruiser Brody, we are definitely talking about Abdul the Butcher, and we're also talking about the Nature Boy Ric Flair. I don't see any scars. Well, it is believed that the 16-time world champion has had plastic surgery to repair the damage he had done to his forehead over the years, which is smart because you don't want to look gross when you're getting into fights at local pizzerias. Number 5. Hairable timing. Hair transplants aren't exactly rare in professional wrestling. Heck, Chavo Guerrero's been featured in ads for medical hair restoration, which is way less embarrassing than playing Kerwin White. But there was one instance where getting hair transplants may have ruined someone's career. Sean Stasiak was the son of a former WWE champion. He had $1 million body and was quite serviceable in the ring. However, on an episode of the Kurt Angle podcast, the Olympic champion would say, Sean was losing his hair just like I was. He decided to get a hair replacement surgery, and it was a week before he was called up. He called the WWE and said, hey, I can't be called up right now. I'm getting my hair done. And they're like, oh, okay, all right, we'll take care of you then. He didn't lose his confidence because of that, but I think that painted him into a corner where, okay, this guy's not going to be a team player. And there might be something to that, as once Stasiak made the main roster, his gimmicks included meat and guy who falls down a lot. Number 6, on the nose. Nobody leaves wrestling with the nose they showed up with. Seth Rollins smeared John Cena's nose across his face. Our tribal chief doesn't quite look the same as he did back when he was a member of the Shield. Hall of Famer Trish Stratus had her run-ins with other people's boots, so if after you've had surgery to repair a damaged nose, if it happens to look a little better, honestly, What's the harm? In 2022, Alexa Bliss would take a break from in-ring action to have her nose taken care of, and the reason she described absolutely sends chills down our spine. Little Miss Bliss would go on to say, I had surgery, I had to get my nose all handled because after 6 broken noses, it finally collapsed. Okay, I didn't know noses could collapse. That's gonna be my nightmare tonight. Number 7, breast-laid plants. Believe it or not, this is actually another breast augmentation entry. And yeah, know that we actually saved the worst for last. We've said it here before and it bears repeating again. Goldust was the Attitude Era before the Attitude Era existed. His character broke new ground, tested boundaries, made us question what we were seeing. And the craziest idea of his was vetoed by paragon of good taste and decency, Vince McMahon. Apparently Goldust, or as he was known at the time, the artist formerly known as Goldust, was hitting the controversy button pretty hard. But that's the problem with doing that. It's shocking the first time, unnerving the second, and kind of boring the third. You've got to keep raising the bar. So Dustin Runnels came up with this wild idea that if the WWE paid him $1 million, he would get breast implants. On his Something to Wrestle podcast, Bruce Pritchard would describe the event like this. Dustin felt like this was the only thing that could revive his career. He had to do this. He was willing to do this. Let me get breast implants. Let me get double Ds and stuff. Thank God Vince McMahon talked him out of it. Boy, I tell you, something is really wrong when Vince McMahon is the voice of reason. Well, there's our list. Did we forget any other bizarre WWE plastic surgery stories? If so, please leave them in the comments section below. Also, if you enjoyed this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and double noggin knocker that notification bell. Until next time, I'm Senior Siete for 7 Rasslin saying bye-bye.